about a week and change left in March. And so as a homeowner, there's a bunch of things that happen aside from people having a way too much invested family in the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? So this is that time of year where people start to squirm a little bit. So there is that. And then there's also those of us who also want to look after our property. It's a huge investment. And a big part of that as you get older is lawn care. And I was always afraid because when you're younger, you hear men talking about their lawn. Hey, the rain's good for the lawn. And you're like, oh, God, I hope I never, ever get to that point. Well, I am at that point and have been for many, many years where you start taking a look around and you're like, he thinks his lawn is so good. I bet he doesn't use. And then you start talking about fertilizer. You're starting to talk about certain kinds of crabgrass and whatever, all these lawn things. Because guess what? These days where the price of the average home is $800,000, I don't know what it would be. You're certainly broaching $1 million in a lot of areas. You can't have the crap lawn in front of it. Not only as a homeowner, but as a husband, it doesn't work out very well. Trust me on this one. So what do? Well, quite frankly, it's like everything else. Just go to professionals, like go to people who know. And so our good friends from Hometurf Lawn Care. So both Matt and Joel join us here this morning. They know what they're talking about. So listen up, because if you have some issues with the lawn, and this is a good time to talk about it, I would think in March going forward, they're going to have some answers. So once again, Matt and Joel, thanks so much for joining us here this morning.
Thanks for having us.
So first of all, and Joel, we'll start with you. And of course, with a Dutch last name, I would assume that lawn care, anything to do with greenery and gardens comes to you naturally. But why did you get started in this? Why this business?
Yeah, we definitely have an affinity for green thumb. But we started about 33 years ago now, and really the main was to provide folks with the best quality lawn care that we could at affordable prices. We noticed that costs were quite high, and we wanted to make that more applicable to the everyday homeowner. And we've grown over the last 33 years. We started quite modestly out of our house in Brampton. And we grew throughout the GTA, and we've now spread further across Ontario, and we have are up to 3 regional offices, 2 here in Ontario and 1 in Alberta as well.
Well, the one thing you mentioned is the pricing, because a lot of things that we'd be familiar with in our household, with a car, with whatever it is, we have an understanding of what that cost would be. When it comes to lawn maintenance and lawn care, most people, we don't know. I don't know what a good price is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the big thing for us was trying to stack it up against what you could do yourself. And if you had to go to a hardware store and purchase all of those products, spend the time researching what you needed to do, and then buy the appropriate equipment, stay extremely competitive with that, if not beat it, quite frankly.
Yeah. So Matt, when we're talking spring, and we're going to get some rain here in the next couple of days, which is probably really good for most of the lawns across the GTA. When is the good time to start your spring treatments? And obviously, Hometurf being the heavyweight in this sort of capacity, have a lot of different programs, a lot of different ways of treating it. You can go from something small to something basically top to bottom, front and back, everything included. So first off, with the spring treatments, is now the time to jump on board that for our lawns?
Yeah, you nailed it, David. I think this great weather that we've been having, particularly over the last week or so, has been really helpful. You probably see it in your own lawns. They're starting to bounce back from a cold winter, but you're likely seeing a lot of bare patches, maybe some snow mold, things like that. And so our early season programs are really designed to provide the sort of fertilization that your lawn needs to recover from, what is typically a pretty harsh Canadian winter. So we got started actually this week. We're moving quickly through our list of customers with our fertilization programs. And then we also offer certain additional services on more of an ad hoc basis, because we know that not every lawn is exactly alike. And so we have certain products that can help address, issues that come up with things like snow mold and other problems that come up through the winter. So the short answer is, yeah, absolutely. Right now, the things that you do today will certainly help in the spring, and they'll also help as we get into the summer. And when you talk about certain pests and things like chinch bugs and other things like that, the earlier that you start, you need to address some of those things as those insects are in their larval stages, so that you don't have the same problems come late spring and early summer.
Well, and that's a good point too. Here in so I'm out in Durham, and in this area last year and over the last several years, but last year particularly, there was an issue with Japanese beetles, and they got on the leaves of some beautiful and trees, and it's like a provincial park in my backyard. But man, oh man, are these things hard to get rid of? And the insinuation. So you do whatever else. You turn into Dr. Google, right? You're Mr. Science because you read something on Google, and you're acting like you went to Guelph taking agriculture. All of a sudden you know it all, and you know nothing, but you're just bragging to your friends. Well, you need to go and get a 3075 1224. You don't know what you're talking about. So when it comes to those kinds of bugs, and you mentioned the larva stage, is it now? Because I thought, okay, apparently they come from the ground because they started scrubs. So what you want to do is get in and address that on the ground first before they grow. Does this sound remotely accurate at all? Because I refuse to be, Mr. Science, Dr. Google, because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
I think it's a good point. I mean, there's a lot of great information out there, but like with everything, there's a lot of misinformation too, and it can be a bit overwhelming to try and decipher through it. And also understanding that everyone's lawns are different, right? Even in one street, you might have very different soil conditions, different grasses growing, and that's where I think there is a benefit to relying on some professional expertise for these things. Our programs are designed to time our applications with what's most helpful when. So, starting now in late March and really into early April, we focus mostly on proper fertilization to help, lawns start to really regrow. And then we'll get into our spring aeration program, which is really designed to help improve soil quality, right? And both of those things are going to have some short-term benefits here in the spring, but they're also really going to help in the summer. I think for a lot of people that probably had a tough go last summer with that really hot, dry conditions, saw their lawns looking all burnt out, and all of a sudden they're reacting, trying to figure out, what do I do now? It's July and my lawn isn't looking so great. The answer is you probably are a little late in the game. It's things you should have done in March and April that can help set yourself up so you don't run into those same issues in the summer.
So Joel, that kind of leads me into this. When you guys are going house to house and you do a lawn analysis, what is actually reported on it? Because that, we're almost talking about it right there, where every lawn is different, and you as professionals, you go to the lawn, you evaluate the situation. So what will a customer receive on one of these reports?
Yeah, the lawn analysis is an excellent tool, and it really acts twofold. First off, and really most importantly, is a tips and tricks, right? So on the back of our lawn analysis is all of those common questions that you ask Dr. Google. When cutting, how do I cut? How high do I cut? Watering, raking, all these different simple things that really make a huge difference that the homeowner can do. Our service is really a team effort. We're there every 4 to 6 weeks, but unfortunately we don't cut the grass, we don't do the raking, those sorts of things. And that's something that can really help bring the lawn to the next level. So that lawn analysis is also an education piece, right? So for technicians, if they go out and they notice that the lawn is very dry, then they can inform the homeowner to water a little bit more, or raise your mower blade in the summertime so that not as much sunlight is getting to the soil level. All those little things that can have these massive impacts. And then the second part of it is exactly what you're talking about. Providing information on any problems that may exist that the homeowner is not aware, right? So if the technicians do notice a grub infestation, as you're talking about, they'll note that on the paperwork, and then the homeowner can be more more educated and more involved in the process. And if they decide that they want to take on a grub application, then they can go ahead and they can do that, or they can do some seeding themselves or have us do that to manage the issue. So it's very much an educational tool to keep people moving forward and their lawns moving forward, but it's for us both to work in unison together.
Gotcha.
We're in conversation with Matt and Joel from Hometurf Lawn Care here on Newstalk Sauga 960 Raw. Mike Richards. You know, in this neighborhood, it's kind of funny because there's one family in particular where their daughter was going to school close to Windsor. And so they would go over the border and bring back this American fertilizer stuff. And of course, I don't know, it's like illegal or something. It's like going to Russia and coming back with, I don't know. It felt like the way they were talking about it, it felt like drug dealing. You know, it's like, wow, we came across the border and we got this stuff. What are you talking about? When this stuff goes, when they use it, that application, they put it with the house, I can smell it. Like I'll be 5 doors down. I'm like, well, are you making crystal meth down there? What does that smell? And they're like, oh, it's the 175 Z19 or, you know, whatever the thing is that you're not supposed to have in Canada. And I have to admit though, the lawn looks great. I mean, there are no weeds. Is it really that big of a difference when we start talking about the things that kill things here in Canada, what's allowed and what comes across in the secret windowless van from Detroit? Is there that much of a difference and I assume it's just because in Canada, the residual effect of whatever you're using probably can't be good. But what is the difference in that when people ask that question about fertilizer?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I think big thing is education again, right? So in Ontario here, we've had the pesticide bylaw since 2009. And it's actually not a federal issue. It's provincial. Each province has a set of regulations. Okay. So for instance, in Alberta, we do use traditional pesticides that we had used in the past. Here in Ontario, since 2009, we were very, very early adapters of the new weed control product. We worked with it very thoroughly to make sure that we were getting the best efficacy out of it that we could. And we've had really good success with it. So your answer to is one better, is one worse? My answer is maybe. I really think it depends on how you train yourself on the product, how you use the product. The traditional based product that you pick up in the States certainly might be a little bit easier to use for the homeowner, but it is against provincial bylaws.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to be careful with that. Matt, you guys obviously have all your regulated provincial applications in order. Your website looks fantastic, really describes everything you guys can and will do for the customer. So what's the best way of somebody listening to this morning? I know they're going to see the recording a little bit later on a lot of different social platforms. How do they get a hold of you to make the best judgment on what applications they want, what packages they want with Hometurf?
Yeah, well, I think you're absolutely right, David. And we've put a lot of effort into building out our website. So that's a great first stop at hometurf.ca. One of the most helpful tools there is we have an instant quote tool. So prospective customers can go online, type your address into our instant quote, and you'll get an instantaneous customized quote that's unique to your specific property. It's a really helpful tool. And so, and within that, you can see our different packages. You can also add additional services, and you can see a breakdown of what all those additional services are. But of course, if they have any questions at all, they can call us, and our customer service team will be more than happy to answer any of those questions, provide more details on exactly what our programs look like. But this is absolutely the best time. By ordering now, customers can take advantage of promotional pricing. They can also ensure that we get out to service their lawns as soon as possible, which is critical, as I mentioned.
Yeah, it's great. Who's the actor, by the way, on the thing there? Could you not have got a better actor? Like, couldn't you got like Tom Cruise, Ryan Reynolds, or at least Wendell Clark? Couldn't you got someone a little better than this? I'm just asking, does he work for you guys? Is he?
He's actually one of our production managers. He's a really excellent.
So he's a real deal. Guy. It's not a fake actor. It's a guy that knows what he's doing. That makes sense.
Because you realize if you got a real actor, he'd be like, doing all these faces. I'm like, yeah, you don't do that when you're doing the lawn. Just so there's no snipers in the trees. Okay, so you don't have to be rolling around at the ground.
That's right.
I'd love to see Wendell handle a spreader though. So if you've got to connect, let us know. We'll get Wendell out there for next.
Phil Wendell. We'll get Dougie Gilmore to do that. He likes doing that. He likes lawn care. We'll get him. We'll get celebrity home turf guys. Great job, guys. And as I said, you're not in it for 33 years because you may or may not like the business. That's the one thing when you deal with people. Once it starts getting into the 20 and 30 years, they're lifers. They do it because they also really like it and they like the business. That's a big part of that. When you have someone coming to your house, you don't want to see the disgruntled guy who's rather, thinking that he's made a bad choice in life. And look, there's a lot of that. That's why sometimes I think when you get some of these companies and, maybe it's not the owners themselves and they're really not that thrilled to be there. You pay a hefty price for it. And you're like, why did I just burn my money on this, and that happens a lot. I think in this business, maybe more than anything else, because people don't want to do it. They don't know it. So they think they can just get a flyer in the mail one day. And they're real disappointed when they realize these guys aren't professionals at all. They've done it for probably a week, not 30 years. If you're going to pay for something, pay for quality, pay for guys who've done it over 30, pay for the guys who have all the awards across their website.
Yeah, you're telling me.
Let's start with that. So I'm thrilled that you guys have come on here today. And I wish you certainly all the best of luck. You probably don't need it after 33 years, but I think really what we want to do here today is just let you know that this kind of professionalism is out there. There are guys that you can trust. They're good guys, and they'll come to your house and they'll fix your problems. I mean, at the end of the day, isn't that what you want? You want the lowest price for the best result, and that's what you're going to get with Hometurf. So we're thrilled that you guys joined us here today. I'm sure we'll talk one more time because I'll have other issues, I'm sure, like when I'm spilling rye. Oh, what do I do for a rye spill? Is whiskey good for grass? I don't know. I'm sure we'll talk to you again, and thanks so much for this morning.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks, guys.
That was a lot of fun here this morning. Really good guys. So talking to both Matt and Joel from Hometurf. And once again, if you want to get a hold of them, there's a lot of different ways. You'll see it on Twitter, obviously, later on today. But hometurf.ca. Easiest way to do it. Get an appointment. Fix your stuff.